Right, back to the tornado. Damage we saw consistent with an EF2 tornado hitting Seminole County, Florida yesterday. And one meteorologist was on air during all of it. Listen.
Debris right now on the roof. Debris is on the roof right now. Seek shelter immediately. Get under your desks, guys. Anchors under the desks. Everybody get on the desks. This is a confirmed tornado. National Weather Service, if you're listening, this is a confirmed tornado. I can tell you myself that this is a real tornado. This is a very serious situation. This is a real live tornado. It just hit our station.
And that was meteorologist Brooks Garner with Fox 35 in Orlando. He talked Central Florida through the tornado while in the tornado. It all happened live during their morning show. The building that they are housed in sustained some damage, as did some nearby neighborhoods, Marissa.
So let's talk to him. We've got Fox 35 meteorologist Brooks Garner joining us now from Longwood, Florida. So Brooks, from forecasting it to seeing it play out in front of your eyes to now helping some of the cleanup. I mean, you're out there in Longwood. Talk to me, because we've seen images this morning of some of the destruction, but I can see very clearly behind you. This was a strong tornado.
It really was. We're in a suburb about 50 miles north of Orlando. It's a beautiful area, lots of very nice homes and golf courses, but also very densely populated. And it seemed like it was by miracle that despite the devastation here, with winds of over 120 miles per hour and what was determined by the National Weather Service yesterday in a preliminary survey to be an EF2 tornado, that there was not one injury, not one fatality. It was a miracle. I'm standing here holding building materials. I'm in a backyard of a person's home. Actually, behind me, two people trapped in this home for a while before sheriffs were able to come by and rescue them, but they emerged unscathed. We don't have basements in Florida, and with winds like this, you really need to find shelter below ground if you can. But because we don't have that luxury, we advise people to find an interior room away from windows. The goal is to avoid debris like this. This building material becomes like flying missiles, and after the fact, it's got nails sticking out of it, so it's a total hazard to walk in because you can get a nail through your foot, a legitimate concern here, and tetanus and all that stuff, infections. It's a real mess. And it became really real when we were tracking it. From its inception on radar, we always say in meteorology, there's a potential tornado, radar is indicating a tornado, to then all of a sudden being able to affirmatively confirm that it was in fact a tornado because we saw it with our own eyes. It started with the confidence that there was an actual tornado because using our Doppler radar, we could detect debris in the sky that was different than rain. The radar is smart enough to detect sticks and branches and paper and just whatever tornadoes pick up, shingles. And that tells us right there that there's got to be something lifting that debris, and that could only be a tornado. Then when we turned our tower cam toward the west, as it looked like it was approaching the station, and we saw the condensation funnel approaching and then the debris quickly following, I knew at that moment that this was real and it was about to hit. And coincidentally, one of our only tornado shelters, and it's amazing, we've got a tornado shelter in our building. It's really designed for hurricanes because we're here in Florida and we've got to be able to broadcast during a violent hurricane and get the message out, but it doubles as a tornado shelter. Happens to be our main studio. So we got everybody in the station into the main studio. But as people, we all have what's called a normalcy bias. It's a bias, everything is normal, that things won't change. And so in efforts to mobilize people to get in, I had to be a little more assertive than I normally would be as far as being like, anchors under the desk, personnel, get inside the studio. We got to save lives. We got to watch out for our own, obviously, so we can keep on giving the message to folks in the path. It was really an exercise in adrenaline management because you don't know what the outcome is going to be when a tornado hits. Upon retrospect, we did catch damage at the station. It was fairly minor compared to all of this, but it's kind of like if you could picture being on the interstate going 70 miles an hour and you get in a wreck and you start spinning out of control, and in the moment you don't know if you're going to walk away from that. Maybe you just get a couple dents and bruises and you walk away, or maybe it's much worse. And it's much the same in a tornado. There's a vast uncertainty and kind of the natural instinct of panic that can ensue. But at the same time, we had a job, and the job was to convey a clear, concise, and actionable message so that folks at home who had yet to be hit by this EF2 tornado could get the message to go to their safe space and potentially avoid injury and save their own lives. And we're able to do that. And that's our mission here in Orlando at our local Fox station, Fox 35. And we were glad to be of service to do that. And that hopefully it had an effect since we didn't have one injury despite all of this. But yeah, it was definitely a moment where one had to be aware of one's own personal reaction to what was a very unpredictable and scary situation, to hopefully bring some good information to people watching at home.
Well, it goes without saying, Brooks, but a phenomenal job being able to keep calm and tell anchors to get under the desk. All the while, I mean, and you and I, we both spent time in Houston, but along the Gulf Coast more broadly, let's speak about the strength of this tornado, because an EF2, 120-mile-per-hour winds. Marissa reminded me the last time we had one that strong, we have to go all the way back to 1998. So during the tracking of this storm, was it in your mind that, hey, we could be dealing with a strong tornado? Because I don't know, what do you even make of the damage this morning in Longwood?
Right. Yeah, I mean, this is not normal. This is Florida. We get hurricanes. You know, if you're in South Florida and there's a big Cat 4 coming through, you'll see damage like this. But for this area, while we do get tornadoes, they usually skew much weaker. The EF0, maybe EF1, but only 1 out of 10 tornadoes for this region. 10% are classified as significant tornadoes, which this one was, which is why you've got to go all the way back to 1998, which coincidentally was made popular in culture and movies with the famous movie, and maybe a lot of our viewers here at Fox Weather know that movie because chances are love weather. The Night of the Tornadoes. Do you remember that movie, The Night of the Tornadoes? That was inspired by the 1998 tornado outbreak affecting a town just south of Orlando called Kissimmee. And in one of those tornadoes hit here in Seminole County, north of Orlando, where I'm standing, and caused similar damage. So it's very rare. You got to go back almost 3 decades to find anything like this. But when we saw the debris on Doppler radar, you know, as you know, Stephen, you know, our experience in Houston, we've seen a lot of tornadoes. It reminds me of a tornado that we were tracking up in Lovelady, up in north of Houston, about 100 miles on the way to Dallas. Very similar to that. This reminded me of a Southern Plains type of a setup, and so for Florida, that is not normal. But using that experience that you and I both collectively have there in Texas, it definitely applied here and allowed for the experience at least to keep cool and know what to expect, so I could at least help to impart those warnings. But yeah, if you drop me out of a capsule where I was blindfolded and I had no idea where I was, I'd look around and say, oh yeah, this is Cleburne. We're outside of Fort Worth. But unfortunately today we're outside of Orlando, and this is not normal for this area. So it's a shock to the system. I'm just so glad everybody was okay, because again, we don't have basements here.
Yeah, and it happened all so fast too.
Yeah, it is wild to see the damage behind you.
Inside of 30 seconds.
Wow.
Very quick, yeah. I think, what was it? It was on the ground.
It was amazing.
For minutes, it was on the ground. You know what, Brooks? We really appreciate checking in with you.
It was 4 miles of a track.
That's what it was. 4 miles of a track.
You bet, absolutely, guys. It's amazing.
Yeah, good stuff. And you know what? Nobody was hurt.
It goes from what was for years to this.
Yeah,
nobody was hurt.
Something. People are going to be talking about this for a very long time. Our thoughts are with the families that lost maybe their homes or whatever destruction around them. Fox 35 Orlando meteorologist Brooks Garner. Appreciate that.